Skinny Hardaway Southern T, back with another EP. Y'all do your boy a favor, y'all smash that like button for your boy when you roll on in. Whether you're here for a good time or a long time, I greatly appreciate you sliding through. If this your first time, do your boy solid. Don't make it your last time. Hit that subscription button as well. We talk this good boxing, MMA, sports, parlays, predictions every single day, not just today. Today, we here with a boxing EP. We got the return of Xander Zayas. And then his return, Xander Zayas will be taking on Jorge Perez. Jorge Perez is coming out probably the biggest win of his career. Actually, I'm not going to say probably. That is the biggest win of Jorge Perez's career, right? Xander Zayas, that name may ring a bell. Jorge Perez, maybe not so much, right? But Jorge Perez made a recent splash by beating Charles Conwell. And he beat him in an exciting fight, a fight in which he won by split decision, if I'm not mistaken, split decision, majority decision. Think it was split, right? But he pretty much, got off on Charles Conwell, right? He was able to land on Charles Conwell. He's the kind of fighter that will take some to give some, right? He kind of likes to wait for you to punch, and then he counter punches, right? Tall guy, 6 foot. This is going to be, I think, the first time that Xander Zayas is going to be giving up this significant, right, of a height advantage. I do like the fact that Jorge Perez and Xander Zayas are fighting coming off, Jorge Perez's biggest fight. So I'm going to give Xander Zayas some kudos and some points for that, right? Because although I would have liked to see Xander Zayas versus Conwell, right, this guy just beat Charles Conwell, and you're fighting him coming off, the biggest win. He's, in his prime. He's had his best win, and now Xander Zayas is going to take him on. You can't do nothing but salute that, right? So shout out Perez, too, right, also for fighting Xander Zayas, who ain't no walk in the park, as well. So shout out these guys for mixing it up. I think it's going to be a bit, of a firefight. This is at the 154-pound division, right? So these are not small dudes. Xander Zayas is about 50-50 at the 154-pound division, right? He started at 47 early in his career. He's had about maybe 10 fights at 154, right? 5 knockouts and 5 decisions, 6 knockouts, 6 decisions, something like that is Xander Zayas, right? Xander Zayas does, lean more on his boxing at the 154-pound division. Although he's still a puncher at heart, he does lean a little more, on his boxing. And I'm saying that as a plus, you know what I mean? Because, having power is one thing, but knowing how to use it, where to put it, and where to land it is another thing. And Xander Zayas has grown a whole lot in that aspect. He went from being kind of like a brawler into being not necessarily a pure boxer, but a boxer puncher. You know what I mean? He does have a high ring IQ. I like that as well. He has shown more of that at the 154-pound division, moving up. He does have a high ring IQ. He's a guy that likes to come forward. And Perez is a guy that likes to come forward, but he also can fight off the back foot. You don't really want to be on the back foot versus Xander Zayas, right? Because that is how Xander Zayas stops you, when you allow him to control the pace and allow him to control, where the fight is going to be taking place. That's when most of the time Xander Zayas wins his fight. That's how he wins most of his fights, right? When he could be leading the fight, leading on that front foot, and the other guys fighting off the back foot. Perez is also, good on his front foot, but Perez, I think, is more so of a counter puncher. He has nice power on his shots as well, right? 33 wins, 26 KOs, 4 losses, 6 foot. His range, his reach, right? They don't even have listed, right? I looked on a few sites, for his reach. Can't find it nowhere, right? So they're keeping his reach a secret. Now, I'm going to say this. The size and the reach does bother me a little bit, right? But it would bother me way more if Jorge Perez didn't kind of give up his size and reach. And with Xander Zayas being, 2 inches shorter than him, he don't have that far to go, right? So he's a guy who fights kind of smaller than his size, right? So I think it's going to balance out in the fight. I got Xander Zayas in this fight. My first mind says that, nobody gets stopped But if Xander Zayas can get on that front, if Jorge Perez can't make Xander Zayas respect him in this fight, can't make him respect his power in this fight, then I think Xander Zayas does stop Jorge Perez. Something in me tells me that, you know, the counter punching, right, and the snappy power of Perez will be able to keep Xander Zayas honest, right? So I do think this fight goes the distance. In this, I do have Xander Zayas winning. I would lean it going the distance. Haven't made a definite pick yet, right? Because I can see a scenario where, you know, maybe the precision and the full pressure of Xander Zayas could give Perez a problem, right? But I also see another scenario where, just like with Charles Conwell, that, you know, Perez is snappy in himself. You know what I mean? He's a great guy, never been stopped either. So it's tough for me to be like, well, yeah, Xander Zayas knockout. You know what I mean? But I do think Xander Zayas wins this fight. I will lean, you know what I mean, that this fight goes long, right? But I'm not for certain yet. So for now, we'll just say Xander Zayas points decision, right? And if anything changes later in the week, you know, the weigh-in or the post, or the press conference, right? The energy is off, you know, with Perez. Just anything, you know, like that. If anything changes, make sure y'all check that pin comment, right? But the definite call is Xander Zayas for the win. Maybe you put it with, you know, another fight this weekend. Clarissa Shields fights this weekend. Going to be dropping that video pretty soon as well. But in this fight, I think we're going to get an exciting fight. The question I have in this is, if Xander Zayas falls into, you know, a catch and shoot battle, if he falls into the trap of, you know, just fighting Perez, just staying in front of Perez, making himself an easy target and just trading, that's the kind of fight that Jorge Perez wants. I think if Xander Zayas falls into that trap where they're fighting fire with fire, then he gives Jorge Perez a much better chance to win. Xander Zayas, I think, has the advantage in this fight because Xander Zayas can bang and he can also box. Like I stated earlier, Xander Zayas has shown, you know, much more educated boxing skills at the 154-pound division since he's moved up. Maybe because, you know, the guys are a little bigger or whatnot. But I do like the fact that Xander Zayas boxes a little more, and sometimes that still leads to him getting those knockouts, right? Because he still hits pretty hard, right? So he's still knockout, you know, ready. I think he is exactly 6 knockouts and 6 decisions at the 154-pound division on the nose, right? You know what I mean? So the power is there, which is why picking his, you know, knockout or points is a little tricky. But I am going with Xander Zayas for the win, but I would much rather him use a bit more of his IQ, a bit more of his boxing, and use him, use that to his advantages instead of banging with a guy like Jorge Perez. But that doesn't mean that he can't win, you know, a street fight with Perez. But he has more ways to win this fight, and I think it will behoove him a much smoother fight if he just boxes Jorge Perez, which may lead to it going to cards, but Xander Zayas for the win, for sure. That's all I got for y'all. Skin the Hardaway Southern Tea. This ain't the past, this ain't the future, but it's the present. That's how we rocking, and I'm out. Look, Xander Zayas on the money line, and I'm leaning Xander Zayas points decision.